Okay, we're going to have Coach Norrell come up, and he's going to talk about Louie Perez-Leon and Steve Odep, and I believe he was the coach of both of them.
Good evening. In 1970, as a 22-year-old snot-nose, think you know everything, coming out of college, I came to Delano High School. It was a Sunday, 2 days before school started, and I come on campus, and Coach Fredericks meets me at my car. Dr. Dyer and Mr. Young had their golf clubs, and they were going to play golf. He says, "Son, I will interview you." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, you know, I had other interviews, and they talk all this philosophy stuff. You know, I was a PE teacher. You know, and they're talking philosophy of this and all that kind of stuff. And Mr. Frederick says, "Can you coach baseball, son?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "I know I talked with your coach at Sac State last night. You're hired." I said, "Oh, this is great." One question interview, didn't ask me about philosophy of whatever. He says, "But I have to tell you that if you don't win, there's a bus leaving out of town every day." I said, "Yes, sir." Yeah, I'm 22 years old. I'm just glad to have a job. And so that was a very special year. I was coaching freshman baseball. Jim Hyatt was the varsity coach. Mr. Ward, no shoes, coached JV baseball, and I was on the freshman diamond. I must have had about 80 kids try out for freshman baseball, and it was difficult. But on the varsity team, there's this one young man that I had watched play football, and he got the Morris Blanket Award in football, and that was really the highest honor in those days. And he was a great catcher, great hitter. And I was fortunate enough to play on college teams that we won the championship, so I saw a lot of good hitters. Louie Perez-Leon could play with anybody. And so he made all-league as a senior, junior and senior. He was a starting catcher as a sophomore, junior, and senior. Was Jim Hyatt the coach all 3 years?
No, Bob Aguilar.
Bobby Aguilar. Your sophomore year?
Yeah, I caught George Chavez.
You caught George Chavez. Ah, there you go. That's good. You know, I was very lucky. Delano was a hotbed of baseball. I was very lucky. Coach Frederick said to me, he said, "Son," he says, "you have to keep a secret." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "You're going to be the varsity baseball coach in 1973. I'm not arguing with Mr. Frederick. You know, he knows what he's talking about. And so in 1973, I became the varsity baseball coach. I didn't have a chance to coach. Lou, he went on to Bakersfield College and started there 2 years. Then went to Southern Oregon College and made all conference at Southern Oregon College. Not only in baseball, but in football also. Great athlete. Great athlete. Great young man. He came back here and he coached freshman baseball for me for a year. Did a great job. I hated to see him leave. Hated to see him leave. I talked to him a little bit before the dinner tonight, and I said, "Lou, I got to tell you something." We had a little verbal back and forth one time. You said that this was our program, and here I am, a young 25-year-old, whatever, and I said, "No, it's my program." And he kept saying ours, and I kept saying mine. we went down to Cal State Bakersfield and played racquetball. And the very first ball off of the wall drilled me right in the chest. And he said, "Our program." And I said, "Yes, it's our program, for sure, for sure." So he ended up going up to Oregon and getting in to the insurance business, and has been very, very successful. Met his nice wife up there. I met her for the first time this evening. Very good. So here's an all-around athlete coming from Delano, and I got to tell you, I was very fortunate to have Coach Moreland here. He made me wrestle Bob Rosenberger, and if it wasn't for Coach Beck, I would have lost. I tied him 0-0, and I had an illegal headlock on him for about a minute. And I looked at Coach Beck and said, "Don't you dare blow the whistle." And he did. That was the most stupidest thing I've ever done in my whole life. Bob Rosenberger was another tough athlete. So at this time, I'd like to have Lou come up. Louie Perez-Leon.
Thank you very much. Coach, thank you very much. First of all, I was kind of caught by surprise. Ed, thank you for the kind and certainly generous words. And I'm sure our friend Louie Diaz, who's bathing in the sun in Hawaii, and I'll share that with him. So I do appreciate the thoughts. I'll try to keep this short and sweet because obviously I'm in a tough spot. I'm maybe between you and going home, so I understand that. And I'll do what I can to keep it short and sweet. But I do want to certainly acknowledge some things of my family coming here this evening. I thought about my mom and dad, of course. Again, unfortunately, they can't be here because they have both gone on, and God bless them. But I know they're here in spirit, and I know that for a fact. Because I can hear a mom, ever since Little League in high school, in the stands, being mom, letting umpires and coaches know what she felt. And of course, my dad, 25 yards away from her while doing that, so I remember that. And of course, as I just said earlier, I was very fortunate enough to be a sophomore baseball catcher with Coach Aguilar. Coach, doctor, he's back there. There he is. And oh yeah, great guy. And I was going to share a story about him as a sophomore, being relatively young and stupid, trust me. Where he asked for a squeeze, but here's the problem. The signal was that, okay, that. So we're going to do a squeeze. I'm the batter, and there's a guy running down, whoever it was. And so he calls timeout, and he walks over to me from third base side, and he's doing this. I mean, that dramatically, he's doing it. And of course, I'm young, stupid, and don't know what I'm doing. And so, long story short, I wanted to remind you about that event, Coach. But I also had a chance to catch one of the best pitchers I ever faced, and also had a chance to catch really and a terribly good-looking guy, George Chavez. So I got to tell you that. I'll keep it short and sweet, though. And you have to forgive the personal reference, because Eddie did make a comment that hitchhiked as to why I did what I did in my sporting career, my life, so to speak. And forgive the personal reference. But I remember as a 14-year-old kid or freshman walking into the gymnasium, and on the wall as you walked in, there was three photographs. In the middle was Forrest Main, who, by the way, is the very first charter member listed in this program. I noticed that. And I wanted to be that. I wanted to do that. And you're right. The model that you set, the role models that we had, and I give a lot of credit to Dennis Sheehan as well. I was a freshman. He was a senior. And the Joe Negos and the Mike Sircones and the Chris Becks and those guys. That's what I wanted to be. And Ed, you're absolutely right. That was my role model. And I wanted to share that with you. But that's what I wanted to be. And this is a great night. It really is, because it really not just acknowledges what we did as kids, as young kids, but it certainly gives us gives credence to what we did, and we feel good that we can walk away tonight, so to speak, proud that we had done something, touched some lives along the way, and I think that's a pretty important thing to do. And I have some thoughts too, Ed, similar in thinking. I would strongly encourage kids who are here listening to this, if it's worth it to you, have a goal, certainly. And that's what we had. We had a goal, a white burning desire goal. And I'd share that failure is not the opposite of success. It's just part of it. And it's persistent that does it. And I like Michael Jordan. You may have heard of Michael Jordan. He plays a little basketball. And he said, I failed over and over and over again in my life. And that's why I succeed. And so I would remind you that failure is an event, not a person. So persistence is what does it. Have a PMA, have a positive mental attitude, have a positive outlook. Not to deny reality, things do happen, but the PMA philosophy, being positive, keeps you on that track. I have to say also this too. I hope you're not offended by this, by anybody. I'm going to use a 4-letter word. It might offend somebody. I hope it doesn't. The word is work. The only place I see success coming for work has been the dictionary. And a lot of us here in this room, that Terry Moreland addressed for where we came from, and the people that are generated and grew up in this area know that. And I should have followed through. Be a person of character. And of course, wherever you go, college-wise and life-wise, just be there and be present and do the best that you can. Because all you can do is all you can do, and that's all you can do. And if you don't cheat yourself, you'll be okay. And finally, I would say this too. Make your mother proud. Make your dad proud. Make your family and friends proud. Because that which you share will multiply and grow, and I strongly encourage you to recognize that. And as I sit here, my Aunt Pearl back there, and again, I have other family members too, but it's not a good idea to name people off, because you are always going to forget somebody. But my Uncle Ricky, my Uncle Frankie, Art Duty, my uncle as well, my Aunt Billy, George Villegas, Lila,